hello. This is Crystal. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Get Crystallized, where clarity is power. So, what we're going to do in this episode today, we're going to talk about the 5 steps for spiritual awakening, the 5 steps of spiritual awakening. Now, the 5 steps to spiritual awakening is not something new. It's not something I've created or anything like that, but there is a guy by the name of Adam Brady who did an article back in 2010 that I thought did a really great job of, kind of taking the process of spiritual awakening and putting it into chunks that really make sense so that it will help you to understand spiritual awakening, what's happening, why it's important for you, and make it a safe activity for you to engage in and not be kind of like thrown all different sorts of ways from just different sorts of viewpoints, opinions, because there are tons of them. So, again, what we're going to talk about today are the 5 steps for spiritual awakening. Let's start, before we get into the 5 steps, let's just talk about why is spiritual awakening important? Why is it relevant? Why should you care? Well, the thing is that we are on a path of evolution. We, being human beings, are on a path of evolution. And so we're really coming to a point, particularly at this time, where the spiritual awakening is not only with the individual human beings, but the awakening is really in a planetary kind of stage. So the whole planet is going through an awakening. This is why you see so many things that are upsetting or triggering during this time, from from last year with the virus, to so many other things. But the reason why spiritual awakening is important now more than ever is because there's so many people going through a spiritual awakening at this time. And the challenge with that is that there really hasn't been a lot of resources to help people to go through a spiritual awakening. And so the result of that is that there are a lot of people, some well-meaning, some not so well-meaning, that are taking advantage of this awakening and this new kind of spiritual awareness or spiritual aptitude that people are developing to benefit, right? And I don't necessarily have a problem with people benefiting or coaches sharing their piece of what works and what doesn't work. But what I don't want to happen is I don't want you to go into these situations and environments not aware of the process and the power that you have in a spiritual awakening. So that is my mission and my purpose, is to help people to understand their power and not give it away. And when you have that power, you have complete clarity about what you want to do, around what you don't want to do, and then you can begin to use different practitioners and different tools to help you on your journey, but you're still directing the show, okay? So what I found is that a lot of times you can be misled in the spiritual arena because you think that the person who's helping you, whether it's a minister or a pastor or an astrologist or a numerologist, you are given the perception that what they're saying is the ultimate truth. And what they're saying is they know about you and that you let them direct your life, when the reality is, no, you own it. So that is the purpose of my being here. That is the purpose. That is my passion, is to help you to see clearly, because I went through a spiritual awakening and I'm continuing to go through the process. And I really did not have any good resources until the end, like closer to the end, where I kind of already figured some things out. Then I discovered some different people on YouTube that really were helping me and that really resonated with me. But up to that point, I had no clue. So let's get into the content. So I will go over briefly the 5 steps of a spiritual awakening, and then we'll dive a little deeper into each of the 5 steps so that you understand more about what they are, what's involved, and what they may look like for you. So the first step is the glitch. And I like to refer to this as the call to adventure. And this is I actually got the call to adventure from Adam Brady, his article, because I thought that was so appropriate. And what this looks like is the glitch is like you get to a point in your life where something happens where things just don't seem congruent anymore. For me, it was when I had my children, when I had my boys. What really stuck out to me is how we had messages and how we communicated with children, just in general, with nursery rhymes, child rearing, and all those things. It was just so incongruent. It didn't make sense. It didn't seem to just support the growth of a human being into, a member of society. And it almost seemed like it was embedding fear from the very beginning. And then later I found out it really was. So the glitch is that point or that moment in your life where things don't seem to line up. Beliefs that you had don't seem to make sense for you anymore. They're not congruent. They don't seem to be benefiting you, even though everyone around you, or most people around you, tend to believe that they do help you and that they are the most important thing and they are true. And then if for some reason you don't really get it, well, that's on you. You need to figure that mess out and understand more about what you're missing. Well, you're probably not missing anything. In fact, you probably are very aware of some things that other people don't see because you are beginning a spiritual awakening. The second stage of spiritual awakening is called the decision. And so I like to refer to one of my favorite movies, which is The Matrix. And at this point, let me get I think I have a picture for you. At this point, this is where you need to choose between the red pill and the blue pill. It's upside down because I don't think you can see it's backwards properly, right? And what this is about is, so you see the glitch, right? You know things are a little off. And so you got a couple choices when you see the glitch. You can just be like, well, that's a little weird. I don't know why we do that. I don't know why we sing such negative, things, nursery rhymes to children. I don't know why people are friendlier on Halloween and Christmas. I don't know. You know what? I'm not worried about it. Whatever. We're fine. I'm not going down that road. Or whatever that trigger is, whatever your glitch is, you have to make a decision on whether or not you're going to ignore it. You're going to just pass it off and just say, well, I don't know, and I don't care. And you're just going to ignore it. Or you're going to say, you know what? That doesn't make sense. I'm not going to just continue to walk around believing things that don't make sense anymore. Let me investigate. Let me see how I really feel about like that. Let me see what my belief truly is about that. And that's kind of a tough place to be in, this second stage, because you're at a point where you are looking at your environment, you're looking at your beliefs, and you are staring in the face of things that you have perhaps believed your whole life, things that your pastors, or your parents, your grandparents have really kind of hammered home in you since you were little. And now you are at a point where you don't think it really makes sense anymore. So I don't know about your family, but if your family is anything like my family, when you start talking about those religious topics, they have been so ingrained, particularly to me in the African American community, they've been so ingrained that if you come out talking anything different than that, so if you start talking about, well, maybe there is a reincarnation, or, well, maybe that trip down to hell that Jesus took, maybe that was a different purpose for that. When you start questioning things, the interpretations of things that you have learned over time, then you're going to ruffle some feathers. You may choose to keep it internally like I did, and ask questions around it, just to kind of do almost like a like a test to see if people are open to have the conversation. But I know for me, that people weren't open to those conversations because the beliefs are so ingrained that it was not going anywhere. So you're going to have to choose, and you're going to have to decide whether or not you're going to accept the viewpoints and the beliefs that you have, or you're going to make a decision that you're going to find out what your beliefs are. And this is going to be challenging. There were so many times that I was triggered by things, or I was challenged, and my first thought was to go to, oh, well, the Bible says this. And I was like, oh, well, but how do I do that? Well, I don't know. Like the Bible says, pray without ceasing. Well, how does that really work? How do you actually really pray without ceasing? Have you ever gotten any instruction on that? And so when you begin to investigate and explore and figure out how those things work and what they mean, you're on a path where you discover that everything is not as it seems, and there's a better way. And you have to make that decision. And it's yours to make. You don't have to go down this path, because I'm going to warn you ahead of time that it's a challenge. And even as I say, you don't have to go down this path, and I'm going to warn you it's a challenge, you really can't get around it. Because all that happens is it just keeps cycling back. You keep cycling back to these same issues, the same questions, the same things. They just keep cycling back until you get the lesson, because you're on an evolutionary path, right? So in order for you to evolve, you have to deal with issues as they come up. And so that's step 2 is the decision. Okay? Okay, now, once you've gotten through step 1 on the spiritual awakening, kind of the glitch. And the second step, you've made a decision, you say, you know what? I'm gonna choose this path over here. That is the one that is gonna investigate the glitch. I need to find out what that's about. I need to validate my beliefs, okay? The next step is the fun part. And that is the exploration. This is where you've chosen a path and you actually follow the path. Now, when I say the fun part, it's the fun part if you made the choice to take the red pill. If you took the blue pill and you decided to just keep things the same, chances are that you are going to discover later on down the road that you're gonna change your mind. But when you get to the third step and you make that decision, the exploration part is off the chain. This is where your life changes. This is where you say, wow, I never knew. And I tell you what, it's not a clear cut transition from the glitch. Because for me, the glitch, it wasn't really something that it's kind of like you don't go through the steps and say, oh, I'm at step 1 on spiritual awakening. It's kind of like things just happen. And so the thing that really started getting a little crazy with spiritual awakening was the synchronicities. This was kind of a trip, because I had actually experienced them once before, like maybe a decade before. No, probably, I would say now, probably 30 years before. And the synchronicities freaked me out so bad, I was just like, I tucked them under the rug, never to be seen again. And then when I had my boys and I started having questions again, I started having the synchronicities again. So you may be thinking, well, what are the synchronicities, Crystal? Listen, this is gonna freak you out, right? You start seeing repeating number patterns. That's when people refer to synchronicities, that is what they're talking about. And a lot of times you'll hear them referred to as angel numbers or something like that, right? And first it was, usually it's like 11:11, 10:10. You start seeing them like all over the place, like all the time. It's like, oh, 11:11, oh, 12:12. Why do I keep seeing that? You look at your watch, it'll be like 10:10. You go in the kitchen, cook something on the stove, it says 10:10. You go, you're like driving down the street, you look at your car clock, it says 10:10. You're like freaking out, like, why do I keep seeing that? And of course, what do? You go Google it. That's what I did. You go Google and you're like, oh, angel numbers. Ooh, what does that mean? Oh, and what I found it interesting, because they're always very positive, but up until that point, I didn't know anything about them. And so I just thought it was the weirdest thing, right? But of course, what we do now is we Google. And so I was able to find some YouTubers that, were aware of spiritual awakening. Victor Odo he's like my big brother, and Aaron Dowdy. Those are the two that I began to follow. And when I began to follow them, everything started to make sense. Everything started to make sense. And so that following the path becomes easier because now you understand that you have help. You have help. Angels and guides and ancestors, they all are, no one ever goes anywhere. People always ask, well, what happens when you die? You lose your earth suit, but you don't really go anywhere. Energy is contained. You're not going to have more energy or less energy. There's just energy. So when someone dies, their energy just gets absorbed into divine essence, and then they're still there. Okay? And they're available to help you through things like synchronicities. And so the way they work, and usually for me, a synchronicity came more as a confirmation. It wasn't like they were guiding me and telling me to do something. It was more like I would be thinking about something, or I'd be on a path, or I'd be curious to know if the decision I made was a good one. And then I'd be thinking about that, and then I see a synchronicity. I'd be thinking about whether or not this was the right move, and I'll see a synchronicity. I'll be thinking about whether or not I'm supposed to be at a certain place, and I'll see, a 222 or 333 or 444 or whatever, and it'll help me to say, okay, I have confirmation that I'm on the right path, right? And then it will usually have you look them up. It'll have a twist or a spin to it where you understand kind of what your interpretation or what your viewpoint of that particular event might be or could be to keep you on your path. And later on in my awakening with this question, and I'll share more of this as we get more into the content in later videos, is that if you follow your excitement, you're pretty much going to be on the right path. You already know where you need to go. That's when I talk about the power. You already know. It's your energy that people are reading. And so during this step of the following the path, you're going to potentially, I was open to more modalities of learning about me. So I began to look at astrology in a different way. I began to look at numerology in a different way. I had a psychic reading, and I had a different perspective of that. I've had, tarot card readers, but it's a different perspective when you are the owner of your energy and you are the owner of your destiny. It's a different perspective. And then you realize that those things are really helping you along your path. So that is kind of the third step, is following the path. Now, that is all wonderful and everything sounds exciting until you get to the fourth step in spiritual awakening. So now we get to the fun part. The fourth step on the path of spiritual awakening is, I'm calling the question. It's the question. Because up until this point, you're kind of going through, you're experiencing different things, you're having fun, you're getting, I got to a point where I was really comfortable, like I wasn't alone, and then I started looking for them, like, oh, I don't see a synchronicity today. Oh, wait a minute, I had a whole day and I didn't have a synchronicity. Where are y'all at? Where's my angels? Where are my guys? Where are you guys? Hey. I started looking for them. But then as you go deeper and you really begin to question how the universe really works, who is God for you? How does God fit with these things that you're learning about who you are? And then you realize, as I did, that you are a God satellite. You are. This is why you're a speaking spirit. This is why what you say happens, whether you are aware of it or not. So if your life is not the way you want it, all you need look no further than your own speech and the things that you say in your day-to-day life. Just start keeping a journal of everything that you say, and you will find that you have been creating your reality all along. And so the challenge is when you get to that point, you have to accept the reality that you create your reality. And that is a tough pill to swallow. And that is where, we become challenged. And that is where a lot of times people will have what is called dark night of the soul. It's like you're here and you have all these great things and you think you should be able to be having an amazing life, and things aren't going so well. It's because you have triggers and you have beliefs that are really deeply ingrained in your energy, in your spirit, and they have to bubble up. That's part of the peeling away part. You have to think of it like you have an injury and you have a scab, okay? Or you get injured. At first, the wound is really open. So back when you were a child or many years ago, something happened to you and it caused you to feel strong emotions. And when that happened, it left a little scar or maybe a big scar on your heart. And it ingrained a belief about that. So you set a belief. So when I was younger, I got robbed in front of my house. That left a scar in my heart because I was just trying to help someone. But then, and it ingrained a belief that says, no, you help people, it hurts you. You don't help people, it'll hurt you. People hurt you. That was a belief that was ingrained so deeply in my heart that it was preventing me from having success in my business, and I didn't even know what it was. I didn't even remember at first. So you're going to have these points in your life where you're like, I'm stuck. I don't understand why things aren't working. And it's because you have scars. And when you're having a spiritual awakening, you're basically ripping the scab off of the scar that created the belief that you had before. And that is my interpretation of dark night of the soul. There's a scab, you have to rip it off. Because you're getting rid of these layers of your heart that have been preventing you or been having you to believe things a certain way for so many years, even decades. And now that you're awakening, you're moving towards your enlightenment, you're moving towards your enlightened body, you got to get rid of that stuff. And this is the part where you question. It's like, oh, am I really awakened? How can I be a spiritual awakened being and have this still be my issue? How can I be spiritually awakened and still be struggling with this thing over here? How can I be spiritually awakened and have these desires and have these needs and have these things that I'm experiencing and engaging in? How can that be? And then you have to dig deep into those beliefs, dig deep under the source of those desires and understand where they come from, and then question, are they wrong or are they not wrong? Can you be sexually aware and spiritually aware? Can you? Can you desire money and still love God? Can you love people and love yourself? These are deep, deep questions that will cause you to have to do a lot of soul searching. And this is where you may fall off. And you may say, you know what? I don't know. I thought I was on a path, but apparently I'm not going in the right direction. So I'm about to tiptoe myself back over here, and I'm just going to forget I ever had these experiences, and I'm going to go on with my life. That may seem like a good option, but guess what? Once you go on the path, once you begin the spiritual awakening, you've gone down that road, it's the right place for you to be. And guess what? You won't even be able to go back. You can't go back. I'm sorry to tell you. And you won't want to go back. You'll push through the issues. Seek to understand. One of the biggest things that I had to realize is that when we say the word God, different people have different views. And my view of God, it's okay for it to be different. Because in my view of God, all that is, divine essence, is so much bigger than I've ever been taught and ever learned from anyone in any religious setting ever. Because most of the people that I knew, their version of God was small. Why do I say that? Because when your vision of God becomes clear, You can no longer be satisfied with just being what you are right now, because you are attuned with the evolution and the fact that everything that is of God grows and expands. Expansion and growth is your birthright as a child of God. It is. It is an expectation that everything will flourish and be abundant. And so if you're not flourishing, if you're not experiencing abundance in your life, it is because you have an encumbrance. There is something there. There's a layer, there's a belief, there's a pain that's there that needs to be removed, sometimes snatched out, so that you can begin to truly experience life as you know it. And then you get to step 5 of the spiritual awakening, which is when you merge with the path. This is where you acknowledge the path. This is where you say, wow, I'm on the right path. This is where I need to be. And then you say, wow, you know what? You want to share. And you say, oh, I got to get the word out. Because then you begin to look at your family, your friends, and you see their lives, and you realize that if you could just share this information with them, everything would be better. But you can't necessarily just go spewing it out to the world, right? Or you can, maybe. That's my choice. My choice has been to share it with you. My choice has been to say, you know what? I'm not looking to change anyone's beliefs. I'm not looking to make someone, distinguish and get on the path of spiritual awakening. I'm only here for those who are spiritual wanderers or spiritual explorers. You know that something is different and you're on the path already, and you need to have that connection with people who understand your path. That's who I'm here for. And that's what I hope you're able to gain from my channel, from this video, just an understanding of what the spiritual awakening path is, how it affects you, and then keep coming back so we can go through this journey together as you learn more and enjoy more and experience more and get excited about your life. I want to be here for you to help you on that journey. So I hope this video has been helpful for you. It's really been helpful for me even just to do it. I feel like I'm really doing the thing that I should do to help you on your journey. Okay, so thank you so much for your attention, this long video. So let's just summarize real quick the 5 steps of spiritual awakening. The first step is the glitch. It's when you go, something's not right. What's going on here? And that is where you first realize that maybe things aren't quite as they seem. The second step is the choice. You have to choose. When you see something that's a little bit off from a spiritual perspective, it doesn't quite resonate with you, you're not exactly sure why, you can decide to pass it off and just say, I don't know. Or you could go down the path. You could make the choice to go down the rabbit hole and see how deep the rabbit hole goes. Or you could just take the blue pill and go back to sleep. So that's the second step, is the decision. The third step is the exploration stage. This is where you decide to follow the path. You've seen the glitch. You have seen the choices of the path that you could stay on. You could either ignore it or go forward. You choose to go forward. Now you're on the path. This is where the fun begins. This is where you open up your mind. You begin to explore all the different beliefs and the questions and the things that you have. And life really becomes magical here, because this is where you begin to explore and realize how great you really are. And in fact, that you are divine. This is really where the party is. Unfortunately, as all good things are, this too must come to an end. And then we go to stage 4, which is, sadly, the question. This is where you look at your life and you look at your choices and you go, I don't think I can be a spiritually awakened being, because a spiritually awakened being would not do that. How can I be? It's not really true. No, this has been, I don't know why I've been tripping out, but this is not, no. This is where you begin to question your beliefs. You begin to question your path. You question the things that you discovered, and you wonder, how is it even possible that you could be a divine being when your life is so mucked up in some area, right? And so you kind of struggle with this for a while. Some people get lost here. But the problem is you can't go back. That's what makes it a dark night. The dark night of the soul is dark because you realize you just got to get through it. There's no way to go but through it. It's like you can't go around it. You can't go underneath it. You got to go through it. And so that is the pain. That is the And so the question causes you to do the deep work of dark night of the soul, and just really connecting with, understanding, and establishing your true beliefs. But it doesn't last forever. And then you get to step 5. And step 5 is when you merge with the path. You realize that you really are amazing. You really are divine. You really do have a specialness about you. And then you begin to walk in it. And then you want to share it with other people. Those are the 5 steps of spiritual awakening. Which step are you on? Comment below. Which step are you on today? And I really want to let you know that if you're in a spiritual awakening, you really are not alone. You have me to help you as your guide, but there's so many others. There are others. Many others, even in church, that are out there going through the exact same thing that you are. You're not crazy. When you see those synchronicities, you're not crazy. It just means that your angels are connecting with you, and now you're finally vibrating at a level where you can see them. And it's a wonderful thing. It really is. So with that, I encourage you to pursue, continue your path, stay on the journey. Comment below any questions you have on the journey, knowing that I'm here for you. If I don't answer them to your comment below, I will definitely cover them in a future video, as it is my honor and my privilege to share my experience with you. And I hope that you will do the same and share your experience with me as we rise up together on the spiritual journey. This is Crystal. Get crystallized now, where clarity is power. Bye for now.